S 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. It is a beautiful Monday morning, and we're glad that you're a part of it, and glad to have Dr. Ralph May back in the studio with us this morning as well. Our visit presented by Marcus & Mack, voted the best law firm, the best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row, and the best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Todd. Thanks for having me back.
I'm happy that you're here today, and happiness is a little theme of our visit today.
It is. It's creating positivity. I want to say something very important as I was researching the most current research, of course, as I do before I come on. There's a difference between joy and happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness is dependent upon the external, and we wait for happiness, right? We wait for the right thing to come along, the right relationship, the right job, the right thing. Joy is an internal state that we can create intentionally with our choices that we make about how we view things and how we see things and how we choose to live.
Yeah, and that's a really important distinction.
Very much.
Because even in the saddest of circumstances, we can still have joy.
Resilience means that we can find ways to find positive in the world, even when the world's full of negativity. The world's always been full of negativity. The world's always been full of positivity. We have to make a choice consciously about what we say to ourselves. Human beings, of course, the way we see things is almost more powerful than the way things are. What we tell ourselves about things is what's flexible. There's choices we make that we make automatically, right? Yeah. We choose to believe negative is all, the negative stuff is what we focus on. And Lord knows there's enough negative stuff we're bombarded with every day that we have plenty of reasons to choose that. But we have to, making an active choice toward joy means you kind of stop that process in your head. How often do we think about what we're saying to ourselves? You know, during the day, we say stuff to ourselves all the time. And if we stopped ourselves sometimes, why am I saying, if I write this down and say, I'm saying this negative stuff all day long, would I want to say this to somebody else all day long? I mean, it's like, this is not good stuff. So when you catch yourself, you ought to write it down and say, my goodness, what am I saying to myself all day long? No wonder I'm feeling kind of down on things. Stop that process and decide to create intentional opportunities for joy in your life. There are simple ways you can do that. One, gratitude. Be grateful for the good things in your life. And they're there. You sometimes just don't focus on them. We have sometimes a gratitude journal where write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Make that a ritual of your day. Write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Another thing you can do is basically altruism, which is giving back, contributing, getting outside of yourself, helping other people. It can be small things. It doesn't have to be great gestures. It can be small things that you can do for someone else. Volunteering to do something positive, helping somebody out who needs some help. Saying hello to people, watching your attitude and how we interact with people. You know, if you're looking down at the ground, you're frowning, try to break out of that habit and create positive experiences in your interaction with people. Now, we get stuck sometimes in having to deal with some rough things. I mean, there are people certainly that get stuck with difficult circumstances, but you don't have to let the difficult circumstances define your reactions. Be grateful for what you have. If there are negative things in your life that you can reduce or eliminate, set boundaries. Be able to say no when you're being pushed into things that you really don't want to be able to do or you don't feel like you should do. We're not denying that there's negativity in the world. We're just deciding not to focus on that as our primary way of reacting.
How important is it to recognize some of the difficult areas that you have in your life? For instance, I will find with myself, I put up a shield.
Right.
And it's a negativity shield.
Right.
And so I might be feeling perfectly fine inside, but I'm going to wear that shield in front of myself just to deflect anything that might come my way.
I think that's a great technique because negative things always come our way. And we have to sift out what is important for us to deal with and what is irrelevant. What is just negative stuff that we don't have to focus on. No one can control everything in life, and sometimes I think we don't control a whole lot. We can, however, decide how we're going to react to those things that we can't control. And that's what we can say something about. The negativity shield is like letting negative stuff kind of bounce off of you. We used to say, consider the source, right? People are negative, they're upset, they have their own negativity. And when people get very negative, it tends to spill out of them. Right?
Yeah.
You know, we know people that are just so down, so negative. Maybe they have depression, but they tend to pull down things. And by the way, there's a difference between negativity and depression. Depression is a clinical state where once you get really sad for more than 2 weeks consistently, your sleep is disturbed, your energy is disturbed, you have negative thoughts, perhaps becoming real negative to the point that you're suicidal, that's a different thing. That's depression. That needs treatment. That needs intervention. We're talking more about the day-to-day kind of negative stuff that just kind of brings us down and makes us cranky.
Yeah.
I fight with crankiness. I'm getting older, my body doesn't work like it should, so it's easy for me to let myself become cranky. But instead, I work out, I run, not as much as I used to, but, keeping myself active, keeping my body physical, which, by the way, is another way to create positive in your life, is allow physical activity. And I've talked about this before. Early morning light, like even this morning where it's cloudy, getting in the morning and getting out and getting exposed to natural light is a very important thing to create positivity, to create better emotional and physical state.
Community it can be a really big positive or negative, can it not?
Absolutely. Who you surround yourself with is the swim you're going to take. So if you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who find positive things, create positive mission, you are going to be lifted up. If you're surrounded by people who are pulling you down, it's going to be tough to stay afloat because you're going to be kind of pulled down. I like to use the lifeguard rescue metaphor here where, when you're trying to help somebody come out of the water, when lifeguards have to rescue somebody, the first thing they do is tell them to relax or calm down and let them kind of help. Let somebody else help you. Don't fight so much. Trust somebody else that will help you kind of pull yourself out. That's a very, very important thing. I got caught in a rip current once, so I know this very well. I was struggling. I couldn't find out where the shore was. Of course, without my glasses, I can't see anything. So and the lifeguard pulled me out and said, buddy, just calm down. Just calm down. We'll get you out of here. I said, okay, man, okay. I had enough sense about me to let somebody help me. That's another way, by the way, to create positivity, is to let people who are positive come into your life and raise you up.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, all of these are wonderful ideas, techniques, however you want to term them, but they're things that we can embrace. And sometimes, if you do things like read the comments at the bottom of a post, you know that you're headed intentionally down a road that you really shouldn't be on. No. We find ourselves taking turns that we know where they're going to end up, but sometimes we're on that road anyway.
Yeah, and it does happen where we become, and I think it's because we become so overwhelmed with information and we're busy, there's a lot going on, we get caught, and it's called death scrolling, right, where you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it just leads you into something more and more negative or more just troubled. You have to say no to this. You have to become aware enough about this to say, hey, I'm feeling what this is doing to me. How often do we feel what it's doing to us? We feel tension in our shoulders, we're hunched over. You can feel it in your body if you pay attention. The stress of being caught up in this just kind of wears you down. Stop it. I use a cognitive technique with my patients. Big red stop sign. Just put it in your head. Stop. Stop. Just stop this. Before you decide what you're doing, stop and think. What's going on here? I'm going to go a different direction. I'm putting the phone down. I'm going to go take a walk, or I'm going to go take a break, or I'm going to get a drink of water. Anything to disrupt the process of being pulled into that negativity.
But I'll miss something.
Oh, I'll miss something. Fear of missing out. Well, it'll get you sooner or later. Don't worry. It's coming back. You can't escape it. It will find you. So don't worry about it finding you. It will.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these wonderful things that we can do. The season of the year in which we find ourselves now, the spring of the year. We've just come out of the darkness and the cold of winter. And yeah, spring is up and down. We understand that. But it also portends that here comes a better season weather-wise when we'll be able to get outside. We'll be able to enjoy ourselves. I find that this week in which we find ourselves, Holy Week, is a really big lifter for me. The whole Lenten season for some people. We create opportunities or can create opportunities to seek after better things, can't we?
We can, absolutely. And spirituality is a very, very important component part of joy. Being able to create meaning. What faith does is it creates meaning when things don't seem to make any sense. And that meaning, that mission, that purpose really helps you sustain joy and resist the temptation to be sucked into the negative, to be sucked into the darkness. I also want to point out that in spring, sometimes for certain people, it can be a rough time. Because now, you have to get out more, you're more around people. Maybe I don't feel like everybody else is happy. I'm not. So it can create kind of a conflict for some people that even though this is the season where you should, quote unquote, be feeling better, some people don't. And so you can't force yourself to be happy, but you can create joy by doing small things in your life, like the gratitude journal, like even mindfulness, like prayer and meditation, very useful. Finding a new hobby or something you like to do that's different, that challenges you a little bit, create some kind of interesting event in your life or interesting things in your life that you can do for yourself. Walking, getting outside, these are all things. There's no one right way to create joy. There's your way.
The golfer Gary Woodland won the tournament yesterday.
Wow.
30 months ago, had surgery. They found a lesion on his brain that was affecting the area that controls emotions and particularly controls fear.
Right.
And so they took that lesion out, and it took a while to heal physically. Still, he said that a couple of weeks ago, he said, I've got PTSD.
Right.
From having gone through what I went through. So there was a physical cause for the way that he was feeling. And then there was a mental residue in his life that really impacted him. And he said until he came out a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, then he couldn't really move forward.
God bless him. God bless him, because he owns it. He reports it. He's educating the public about his condition, which I really think is really important, to be able to embrace it. And to be able, he has going to have, it's called disinhibition or emotional dysregulation as his brain recovers. So it's like the volume switch on your emotions doesn't work smoothly. So you go from a 1 to an 8. And so it's like, and you know it, he knows it. But it's not as easy to kind of get used to regulating yourself again. And the emotional after effects of having a surgery on your brain where you're like, oh my goodness, how is this going to affect me? But he is a classic example of resilience, because he got back to golf. He got back to what he loved. He worked his way back, and he's working his way back now. He's not making excuses. He's offering explanations. That's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Dr. May, when we are in that situation where something bad has happened, there's been a traumatic situation, there's been a death in the family, there's been a poor diagnosis health-wise, our spouse or somebody within our family is suffering in some way. We have to somehow find a way to get through that, and a positive attitude is going to help us, yes?
It will help us to realize that everyone has bad things. Everyone goes through terrible things, some more than others, but we are humans. That's what's going to happen. It's up to us to decide. We need to be able to grieve. We need to be able to feel our emotions. We need to be able to let that normal process happen. But at the same time, we don't want to get pulled into the dark. We have to recognize that time, process, becoming more informed, doing what you can do, deciding what is within my scope of what I want to be able to do, how I want to be able to spend time. These things are really important.
Find your joy and make the decision to follow it. Yes?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Dr. May, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, Todd.
We needed this conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Fox News next, and then Josh in the newsroom.
Thank you, sir.